Hey Jaron, great video in your initial post. I feel like you did excellent in your use of illustrations and found some good ones that I did some Google searches I didn't see. So great job in your overall response to the initial post. So for part two, I just kind of wanted to kind of reread that again and then give my response in the proposed scenario. So it says in the response, we're supposed to state what would happen to the oxygen bond to hemoglobin if the pH of the tissue was the same as that of the lungs, using the logic that you presented. And I feel like you answered correctly in your response is very similar to what I mentioned earlier. So, some of the things that you had mentioned was the actual structure of the heme group, how it is non-planar when the oxygen is not bound to it, and then when oxygen binds the heme group, it gets a planar configuration, and I believe you mentioned the T and R state as well. So you did that perfectly. And then you also mentioned the pH, where the pH is higher in the lungs and then drops into tissues. So this is kind of a model that I kind of found where it kind of takes this into account. It's pretty self-explanatory. We're talking about factors that increase saturation, factors that decrease saturation, and so as this kind of implies, and using some of the material that we learned earlier, it appears that if the pH of our tissues was the same as that of our lungs, we would have markedly inefficient delivery of oxygen to our tissues, which as you pointed out, that there is a pretty large drop of saturation from lungs to tissues. So if that were to suddenly decrease dramatically, that many of our vital organs and processes would not operate nearly the way they are intended to.